that insight, and we hope you stay safe as well. We stay in the Indo-Pacific region now, as China's foreign ministry has said that the European Union should relax restrictions on the exports of high-tech products to China, and that the narrative about China's overcapacity was a one-sided understanding of supply and demand. Guo Jiakun, a spokesperson for the Chinese foreign ministry, also added that China was committed to importing more marketable, high-quality products from the bloc. Let's have a listen in to what the spokesperson had to say. Well, we are now joined by Andrew Latham as those comments are not heard. Andrew joining us as the Professor of International Relations, joining us from Minnesota. Andrew, thank you ever so much for taking the time to speak with us. What's the significance of these trade discussions between both the EU and China, of course, in the face of uncertainty?
Well, the deep background is that the World Trade Order is evolving and changing. You will recall that the U.S. after World War II built the so-called Bretton Woods system, which was premised largely on free trade. The Cold War broke out. It was meant to be a global system that got short-circuited. But after 1991 and the Soviet Union went away and the Cold War ended, we had this planet-wide, more or less free trade arrangement. The World Trade Organization being the institutional backbone of that new international political economic order. And in recent years, that too has begun to fall apart. And we've seen a number of phenomena that reflect that, one of which is the emergence of the BRICS as a kind of thinking shop as to how to reorder the world political order and economic order so that it favors the global South. But we also see a lot of these bilateral deals being done. President Trump is perhaps the avatar of that. He wants to do bilateral deals with everybody. But China is in the game, and so is the EU, and that's why they've sat down to hash out this bilateral, not global, not internet, but bilateral between the EU and China. So that's the deep background. But more pertinently and to the point this morning here in Minnesota is that there's a geopolitical and an economic dimension to this. China has a very bad track record when it comes to stealing intellectual property. And anything that lowers the barriers to that, especially in the security and defense realm or adjacent realms, is going to be welcome to them. They're looking to modernize their military. They're looking to be a peer competitor with the U.S. And any edge that they can get, any time they can get somebody else to do the grunt work, as it were, in terms of defense or defense-related technology, and then they can get their hands on it relatively inexpensively, that's good. There's also the economic dimension. They simply want to be able to purchase high-end, high-value-added European goods at a reasonable rate with low tariffs, and they want to be able to export their goods. And China, of course, is no longer manufacturer of cheap goods. It's an exporter of really high-value-added technology. So there's a lot of money to be made. So that's against the background of a changing world order. We have China and the EU both wanting access to each other's markets. But in the Chinese case, we also have them looking to secure access to defense-related high technology.
Andrew, thank you ever so much for that insight. You will be staying with us as we move on. In the United States,